republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, if I might acknowledge the principal of McNair Elementary School, Maria Eck, is at the back. Please stand, take a bow. Wonderful principal, great school. And thank you, parents, for being here tonight and bringing your children. It was lovely.
Next, we have a certification of a closed meeting compliance. In order to comply with the section 2.2 3712D of the Code of Virginia, it is necessary for the board to certify that since the Fairfax County School Board convened the closed meeting on February 20, 2014, to the best of its members' knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from opening meeting requirements and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board during the closed meeting. The foregoing shall also be deemed to include the certification of each school board member who served on a student disciplinary committee that those closed committee meetings are lawfully exempted from opening meeting requirements by section 2.2 3711A2 of the Code of Virginia, and that all the student disciplinary matters were heard, discussed, or considered in those closed committee meetings. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Schultz and seconded by Mr. McElveen. All those in favor, raise your hand. The vote is unanimous. For the public and the board members, I just want to note that we will be actually continuing the closed meeting discussion after the regular meeting. At that point, before we go into the post-regular meeting, closed meeting, we will do the motion again, and then we'll go into the closed meeting, and we'll do the certification again at that time. Next, we have announcements. A few announcements before we continue tonight's meeting. The board held a closed meeting, and I announced what the board is going to do after the meeting tonight. And if you would like to access tonight's agenda and related meeting documents, you can do so by going to the FCPS website, select School Board, and then upcoming meetings and agendas. If you have signed up to speak before the board during citizen participation, please turn in 16 copies of your remarks at this time to the deputy clerk sitting in the section to my right. If you would like to review a copy of the agenda, any agenda item that is being discussed tonight, that information is also on the table by the auditorium entrance. Please turn off or silence your cell phone, and let me call on Mr. Ash for board announcements.
March 3rd is Read Across America Day. National Education Association's, NEA, Read Across America, now in its 17th year, is an annual reading motivation and awareness program that calls for every child in every community to celebrate reading on or around Dr. Seuss's birthday. This year's celebration is based on the theme, Sink Your Teeth into Books All Year Long, to encourage students to read and take care of their teeth as part of National Children's Dental Health Month. In cities and towns across the nation, teachers, teenagers, librarians, politicians, actors, athletes, parents, grandparents, and others develop NEA's Read Across America activities to bring reading excitement to children of all ages. Governors, mayors, and other elected officials recognize the role reading plays in their communities with proclamations and floor statements. Athletes and actors issue reading challenges to young readers. Teachers and principals seem to be more than happy to dye their hair green or be duct taped to a wall if it boosts their students' reading. March 3rd through 9th is National Foreign Language Week. The week of March 3rd through 9th has been designated as National Foreign Language Week. The Alpha Mu Gamma Foreign Language Honor Society has sponsored National Foreign Language Week since 1957, and the theme for 2014 is Don't let learning a language slip through your fingers. Schools are encouraged to use this opportunity to highlight the value of learning world languages and learning about other cultures, and to celebrate the successes of world language students and teachers.
Thank you. Please bear with me again. Next, we have a recognition of a social work month, and let me call on Mrs. McLaughlin.
Good evening. As a parent, a trained social worker, and a school board member, I am honored once again to provide the official recognition of National Social Work Month. March is the National Social Work Month, and this year's theme is All People Matter. Professional social workers help millions of people every day dream differently. They advocate for fairness and access to resources and help individuals use their strengths and resilience to navigate life's challenges. Social workers here in Fairfax County Public Schools use their training, their experience, and their skills to provide services to our children, our families, and our school staff members in an effort to remove personal and environmental obstacles and to optimize student academic performance. Social workers are committed to helping every child achieve in school and become a self-sufficient, emotionally healthy, socially well-adjusted, productive member of our society. I again want to reiterate that because as a parent I see what you do each and every day in our schools, I want to thank you for caring for our kids. I want to thank you for helping to promote the message that it is not just academic achievement, but it is helping each and every child find their ability to be successful and to really focus on the whole child itself. And you help bring that message to our communities, and you will then help our children have lifelong skills that will help them in their success. So for now, what we would like to do is invite all of our social workers those who work in our social service programs to please come forward and have a photograph taken with the school board. And again, thank you for the services you provide our children.
Next, we have a recognition of National Athletic Training Month. Mr. Church?
So I guess this goes well with our social workers who we just acknowledged. So we must have a wellness month where we take care of the students, total wellness, and certainly that's what our athletic trainers do. March is National Athletic Training Month, and this year's theme is We've Got Your Back. Certified athletic trainers employed by Fairfax County Public Schools are nationally certified, licensed by the Virginia Board of Medicine, and dedicated to providing professional health care for our student athletes. The athletic health care services provided by certified athletic trainers include prevention, recognition, evaluation, treatment, and rehabilitation of athletic injuries and illnesses. FCPS continues to be recognized as a leader in adolescent injury epidemiology research and sports-related concussion management for high school athletes. Our athletic trainers work collaboratively with parents, school staff, and community medical providers to promote safe participation for over 23,000 student athletes each year. FCPS is nationally recognized as a leader among high school athletic training programs. All 25 FCPS high schools have been designated as first team safe sports schools through the National Athletic Trainers Association, and our athletic trainers are recipients of numerous awards in the athletic training field. And if we have any athletic trainers here this evening who participate in the program, we'd like to invite you to come up and be recognized and have a picture with us.
Guys, I need you to slide over. Come on. Okay, sit down. Hey guys, everyone up right here. Count three. 1, 2, 3. And one more. Congratulations, man.
Mr. Photographer, are you staying? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I have a, yeah, Mrs. McLaughlin wants you to stay, so you need to stay. So Mrs. McLaughlin,
No, it's Tammy.
No, you need to say something. It's fine.
all right, you can stay. All right, we have a,
We're going off script.
this is something very dear to the heart of board members, that we know that behind every successful husband is even more successful wife. And behind the successful school board are even more successful school board clerks. All those meetings the board members have to attend, and engagements with the community members. All those emails, researches, and various other things board members need to do cannot be done without the help and dedication, hard work by the school board clerks. With that in mind, let me call on Ms. Delana Fairfax.
To our school board clerks and her deputies, Ms. Pam Goddard, Ms. Lizette Torres Bartel, and Yvette Rose, I have a poem. It's short. Dear Lizette, Yvette, and Pam, when we look at you, we say, "Oh man, we are so lucky to have you three. Tonight, we've come to honor thee. You work and work from dawn till dusk, and never do we hear you fuss. You're always there on Thursday nights to keep us on track under televised lights. As clerks to our board, we put you to the test, but we all know you are the very best. So thank you all from the bottom of our heart for all the hard work you do for us. And we have a few gifts for all of you.
And now we're going to take your picture with us, too.
No, we also have a certificate for each of you, and they say, in celebration of School Board Appreciation Week as designated by the Virginia School Boards Association, and in gratitude for countless hours of pampering board members and attending to every need and whim at any hour of the day or night with humor, intelligence, and a smile, presented to you by our board.
That's good. Just yeah. And look right here, guys. Count 3. 1, 2, 3. That's good. Congrats, guys.
That was good.
I know. I was going to.
Next, we have presentations to the school board, starting with the Spotlight on Learning, Google Apps for Education. Dr. Garza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce our Spotlight on Learning, and we have some distinguished guests here today. The Spotlight will be presented by Kathy Manley, who's the Program Manager of School-Based Technology Specialist in the Office of Professional and Life Skills, which of course falls under the Instructional Services Department. The topic of this presentation is Google Apps for Education. We're also pleased to have with us, of course, Dr. Sloan Presidio, who's the Assistant Superintendent and over Instructional Services, and then we have Chris Lorick, from the principal at Key Middle School. So please help me welcome our presentation tonight, Google Apps for Education. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us this evening. Google Apps for Education is a real-time communication and collaboration tool. It's free. There are no licenses required, and all that is needed to access your GAE account is internet access. This is a safe environment and one that is familiar to many of our students and teachers already. This tool allows teachers to provide quick, real-time feedback to students in an efficient and timely way, to allow students to reflect and adapt to better demonstrate their understandings. Students are collaborating and communicating with peers both in and out of their regular classrooms, allowing students to have an authentic voice with peers and their teachers. Students are learning organizational strategies that are preparing them for their academic future. No one will ever again say, "The dog ate my homework." The success of GAE, Google Apps for Education, and FCPS is a result of a great partnership between Instructional Services and Information Technology. This evening, we're highlighting Key Middle School and their use of Google Apps for Education, and Dr. Christopher Larick is here with me, as is their school-based technology specialist, Mrs. Elizabeth Hernandez. We'll roll the video now.
Hey guys, let's collaborate on the semester 1 review.
The students of Key Middle School have been using Google Apps for Education for 3 years. Principal Christopher Larick.
Google Apps has changed our school.
Google Apps for Education is a free suite of web-based applications hosted by Google and managed by FCPS. It includes Gmail, calendars, Google Drive for storage, and Google Docs, which includes presentations, drawings, spreadsheets, and forms.
It certainly helps our staff be much more efficient with their work. I think they feel more in control and they're able to focus more on the instruction.
And build together, right? Science teacher Patty Waters is using Google Apps to develop students' ability to work together. Collaboration is a skill students need for the 21st century workplace.
When they collaborate with one another, they can watch each other's thinking, and I think that's what's really important. They see each other going through the thinking process, and they think about their own thinking process. So you can see them being a lot more deliberative and thoughtful in their responses to each other.
I think the title should be like kind of a brighter color so that it can be seen.
Yeah, not in black font. I think we should also put the boxes from the shapes around each one of the titles since it's on the first slide, so it'll all match.
I really like it because if you have an assignment to do, you know, for like a project or something, you can work with a person. Like, for example, if we had a project on history or something, we could work together on it. It's like, oh, let's get on it both at 6. We wouldn't have to spend so much time in class working on it. We could also do it at home, not only in class, which I think is pretty neat.
Abdullah, what's your opinion about Google Docs or Google Apps?
It's easier for me to do work on time, and like even if I'm running late and I don't even lose my work, so like it's easier than doing work on paper and pencil. So like I don't have to email my teacher saying, oh, could you help me? Instead, like my teacher could be in my document and she could help me right there.
No one outside FCPS can gain online access to students while they use Google Apps.
We don't have any advertising that you might get in your regular Google account. We have a very safe and secure walled environment.
I think Google Apps is here to stay, and I think Google Apps really gets at one of our student achievement goals, and that is for students to effectively use technology to access, communicate, and apply knowledge, and doing that while also being creative.
Thank you so much for having us. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Narcofax?
Well, I just want to thank you all for being here and bringing this learning tool into our schools. I was wondering if, you know, how many schools have this? So that's a general question. But I also just wanted to point out that I think Dr. Lyric and Ms. Hernandez, that, you know, I think using this type of technology that we have available is perfect in the middle school environment because they talked a lot about collaborative learning, and we all know that middle school can sometimes be challenging in that area. And I speak from a mom's perspective, not from anybody else's, but I think that it's great, and using this and something that they're comfortable with, I think is wonderful. So if you could just answer how many schools?
Actually, all of our schools.
Oh, they all use it.
All of our schools have access to GAE. Different schools have different implementation levels at this time, but we're all working with teachers and students in a variety of ways to get our usage levels up. Because every time we engage with teachers and kids with this tool, we see really rich, deep learning experiences happening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have a citizen participation. Fairfax County citizens who would like to address the school board should arrange to be placed on speakers list by signing up online at www.fcps.edu or by calling the school board office at 571-423-1075. If the concern is a group concern, please consider appointing a spokesperson. And while the spokesperson is speaking, those in support may stand to show their support. The school board will not hear statements involving issues that have been scheduled for public hearings, such as capital improvement program, budget and boundaries, or personal attacks on any person. Complaints regarding individual students who are school-based employees should not be raised at public meetings. Any such concerns should be directed to the appropriate school principal or other school officials. Citizens are encouraged to write the school board on any school-related topic. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to not more than 3 minutes and provide at least 16 copies of their presentation for distribution to the board. Tonight, 3 citizens have signed up to address the board: Matthew Lee, Andy Samuel, and Winona Zaki. Mr. Lee.
Hello, thank you for having us this evening. I'm Ade Samuel. I'm a Herndon High School senior, president of the Spanish Honor Society, and I plan to be attending the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the fall semester.
Hi everyone, thank you for having us. I'm Winona Zaki. I'm also a senior at Herndon High School, and I'm currently treasurer of Spanish Honor Society and secretary of Arabic Club, and I'm planning to attend University of Maryland in the fall.
Again, thank you for having us. My name is Matthew Lee. I'm a senior at Herndon High School. I'm the president of the FBLA program at the high school, and I hope to attend the University of Virginia next fall. Today we are here to address a petition that was started by myself at Herndon High School, and it includes signatures from students at Fairfax High School. It is to address the unjust grading policies of the FCPS online campus by failing to document clear expectations and policies by which the county determines final grades for students enrolled in online campus classes. The FCPS online campus is violating the rights of students throughout the county to be successful. The main concerns the students who have signed this petition, which numbers over 100 students, are that we believe no mathematical formula is used to determine a final grade for a student enrolled in an online course. Additionally, we feel that the final exam has been factored in, unfortunately, twice towards the consideration of the final exam, or the final course grade. Additionally, the grading policies of certain courses taught online conflict with the syllabus provided to all students at the beginning of the class. Additionally, the final exams provided by the online campus are in some ways not valid indicators of content mastery of the specific course. Lastly, students are being assigned to teachers who may or may not work for the school county and are not being held accountable to assign grades based on the policies of Fairfax County schools. We, the undersigned students who are listed in this petition, are concerned and urge our county and school administrators to act now and address these issues to ensure that no student is negatively impacted by the unclear, unjust grading policies of the SCPS online campus. I will provide this petition to our clerks who have been recognized tonight, and it is our hope that with time, these issues will be addressed in our county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. You want to deliver your petitions? Are you all done with your remarks tonight?
Yes, thank you.
Are you 3 all done with your remarks tonight? Okay. And Madam Clerk, would you accept the petition on our behalf? And let me call on Dr. Garza if you want to say anything to their petition.
I would just say that we're aware of the situation. We're actually looking into it and working on it. I'd hesitate to go much farther than that at this particular time, but just know that we're very well aware of the situation. We received your letter just like school board members did, and we're going to respond. So thank you.
Okay. And let me call on Ms. Hines. I think she wants to thank you for coming out tonight.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want you to know we never do this. After someone comes up and speaks, generally we do not speak to you. You know, it's just our habit. But I just wanted for high school students to take your time out for something that you really care about and come down and speak to us. I know it's not easy, so we really appreciate that. Thank you for coming.
Before I go to our student representative matters, which is the next order of business, let me recognize some Boy Scouts in the audience. If you could stand. Okay. All right, all Boy Scouts. So we have a troop number 150 from Annandale, Virginia, working on citizenship in the community. Are you all from troop number 150? Okay, gentleman in front, if you could state your name and tell us. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being here. What school do you go to? Glasgow Middle School. Thank you. Thank you for being with us tonight. Other gentlemen back there, if you could introduce yourselves. Okay, thank you. Gentleman next to you. Thank you. And the gentleman? Okay, thank you. And the gentleman in front? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. There's one more. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let me now call on our student representative, Mr. Ash.
First off, I'd like to say, wow. It's cool to have one Boy Scout in the audience, but 7 is it's pretty great. I mean, that's one of the ways I first got involved with leadership and working with my community. So tonight, I'm pleased to welcome Harris Latif, the student representative-elect from Langley High School. So he'll take over for me on July 1st. So I've got a couple more months to show him the ropes and hopefully teach him how to be better than I was. So I'm excited and looking forward to working with him. And I'd like to thank the students from Herndon for coming out and writing that petition. I think one of the key things is not only are they students who took out their time, they're seniors who took out their time who are trying to change the system for the next students, not something that they're going to be able to receive the benefits of, but they're doing it anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ash. Next, we have action items. There is only one action item, which is confirmation of action taken in closed meeting. This is the portion of the meeting where the board will confirm any action regarding issues that were discussed in the closed meeting. These issues may include action taken regarding students who have been recommended for expulsion by the division superintendent. Board members have discussed each individual case and at this time will make one motion to confirm the recommended action that will come from actually a committee report from Mr. Schultz.
I served as chairman of a 3-member hearing committee along with Ms. Dernack Koufax and Mr. McElveen. And I moved to expel a student for assault on another student. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Next, we have a consent agenda. Our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert's rules, provide for a consent agenda, listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board committee review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to the meeting. 5.01, approve the minutes of February 6, 2014 regular school board meeting. 5.02, confirm the separations for the period beginning January 1, 2014 and ending January 31, 2014 as detailed in the agenda item. 5.03, Suspend policy 4680, salary redlining procedure as described in the agenda item for budgetary reasons for the period effective March 1, 2014 and ending June 30, 2016. Further, direct the superintendent to suspend the redlining provisions of any implementing regulations for the same period. 5.04, award the contract for the Thoreau Middle School renovation project to Henry Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $29,847,000 and authorize the division superintendent while the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. 5.05, award the contract for the Hayfield Secondary re-roofing project to the lowest responsible bidder, RD Bean Incorporated, in the amount of $428,240, and a contract for the Sangster Elementary School re-roofing project to the lowest responsible bidder, RD Bean Incorporated, in the amount of $521,415, and authorize the division superintendent or assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. 5.06, award the contract for the automatic temperature control system replacement at Lynbrook Elementary School to the lowest responsible bidder, Engineered Services, Inc., in the amount of $289,950, and authorize the division superintendent while the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. 5.07, award the contract for the carpet and floor tile installation and replacement contract to Carpet Experts, Inc., and authorize the division superintendent or the assistant superintendent of facility and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. 5.08, appoint individuals to serve on committees as detailed in the agenda item. Is there any objection to approving the consent agenda? Hearing and seeing no objection, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we have a new business agenda items. There will not be a vote tonight on these items, but action is scheduled at a future meeting. We have 3 new business items. The first one is approve revenue and expenditure adjustments as reflected in FY 2014 third quarter budget review and as detailed in the agenda item. Let me call on Dr. Garza.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm actually just going to turn over to our expert, Assistant Superintendent for Financial Services. And before she begins, I just, again, would have to compliment both Susan and her entire team for the hard work that they do on behalf of our school system. I've just been very, very impressed, and it's really been a delight to work with you. So I'll turn it over to our very capable Susan Quinn.
All right, thank you. This meeting is on such a fast pace. I'm going to try to keep it as brief as I can with the third quarter review as well. Again, this is the third quarter budget review, and this is the last time that we'll update the budget for FY 2014. And you know, some folks may wonder, wow, third quarter already, we're still in February. But this is because we have to be, our budget review has to incorporate into county's third quarter, which is the first week of March. So we have to take action on this prior to that particular meeting. So again, I mentioned that this is a very brief budget review, just very few adjustments. And on page 1 of the agenda attachment, you're going to see a couple of adjustments related to the state grants, and those are for our National Board Certified Teacher stipends. We do have a slight reduction this year from the state. And then we have our monetary award that went to our Virginia Teacher of the Year. So we are recognizing that at this quarterly review. The other adjustments relate to returning staffing reserve positions on page 2 of the agenda item. Currently, we have a total of 14 positions remaining, and all but 5 positions are being returned, and the remaining 5 will be held back to address any needs we may have from now until the end of the school year. And this is just to kind of put this in context to where we were last year. This is significantly less than the positions that we returned last year. Last year, we had close to 80 positions So we returned about 75 positions for a value of $7 million. So you could see that the use of staffing reserves really do fluctuate greatly from year to year. And this year we were able to put more resources to our schools that were in need, especially for our large class sizes as well as some of our special education needs. So with the available funding from the staffing reserve, we are recommending that approximately $750,000 be allocated to assist with the startup costs for the Eastern Fairfax Elementary School, AKA Bailey's number 2, $300,000 for library materials, and $450,000 for the school operating funds portion of the equipment costs. Typically, the school operating funds approximately 1/3 of the total equipment cost for new buildings. And then the remaining $600,000 is recommended for major maintenance to help with the backlog of the maintenance projects. And if you recall, during the 2014 approved budget, we actually reduced recurring funding to major maintenance by more than 30%. So this helps a little bit to mitigate some of those backlogs. And then a few other items that we are continuing to monitor: sales tax. We are currently on track with what we projected for sales tax, so we're in pretty good shape. But sales tax has been very volatile. From month to month, we could sometimes see a 10% increase from last year. This past month, it was actually lower than last year's receipts. So it's a very, very volatile account. So we are going to continue to monitor it, but we're not recommending any changes at this time. And then obviously we're also monitoring our heating bills and our snow removal as well. We just did receive some update from facilities management, and there is going to be significant costs associated with our snow removal. So we're going to continue to monitor and see where our, as I mentioned, our heating bills are and where our snow removal costs are. And then that's just kind of the overall for the school operating fund. And as for the other funds, very few minor adjustments. Only one significant adjustment is we did go ahead and recommend loading the additional projects from the 2013 bond referendum. So you are going to see a significant change in the construction funds appropriations. And then as always on the last page, it provides the status of our grants submitted and awarded as of FY 2014 to date. So that concludes my brief presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Schultz?
So as I forwarded earlier today, in the analysis of past years at third quarter, we usually showed a substantial savings in what we call lapse or vacancies. And so, not that I expect an answer tonight, but I just wanted to, acknowledge that I've submitted the question. Yes. And that I'm hoping that there'll be some details. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, I would also think that there would be some, and I don't know if, I'm not sure when third quarter ended, but I got to imagine that there are some savings from transportation for the snow days for not transporting students to school. I know that a single day's transportation is pretty substantial, and I'm hoping that that we could get those figures as well, and that maybe that will help ultimately offset some of the snow removal costs.
And I think for some of the days that we are not required to make up, we are going to save in our fuel costs. However, for our driver's pay, they get paid for snow days. So even though they're not driving, we are obligated to pay the bus drivers. So there is not going to be significant savings resulting from that. And then typically at third quarter, the lapse that we do recognize comes from the staffing reserve. So you did see significant recognition last year, but it was all due to returning the 75 positions out of the staffing reserve. But we'll go ahead and look at your questions that were submitted earlier in the day.
And one final thing, on fiscal year 15 advertised budget, we do recognize savings in, we actually readjust our personnel cost down.
That's correct.
And that's also part of what I believe Ms. Schultz is referring to. So we do recognize a significant amount of those savings in the next year's budget. correct, Ms. Quinn?
Yes.
Okay, I have a Mrs. Strauss, and to be followed by Ms. Hines. Mrs. Strauss.
Are we on track with what we expected for student enrollment? Because I know I've been checking school by school. Considering that we are down to 14 positions in the staffing reserve, and I'm glad we've been able to help more schools. But
Our
where are we
official
with enrollment?
count for general education actually came in 450 below, I believe, than what we had projected. So we are pretty confident that the 5 position will be sufficient to address the needs through the end of the school
Okay,
year.
because that is unusually low for this time of year, but if we're on track, and we're pretty confident. In covering, being able to pay for our snow removal or any of those issues, I'm assuming that we've budgeted enough, because I know that's always sort of an average budget number. We won't have to go into the staffing, into the reserve account.
That's what we're hoping for, but we have not received all the invoices from the snow removal yet. And we have yet to pay all of our heating bills from January, which we had the Arctic air.
Yes.
We are still paying December bills today, so we really need to monitor closely where we are going to be with the heating bills in January, obviously in February, and all the snow removal. Right. But we're hopeful that within the facilities management accounts that we will be able to cover that.
Cover it within the budget. Okay, great, thank you.
But if not, I think as you mentioned, we may have to go into the flexibility reserve.
Right, great, thank you.
Ms. Hines.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking at page 7 of the attachment. It's the operating fund statement, and I see a difference in state aid. And I'm sorry if you mentioned it and I missed it, but it looks like it's 75,000 less than.
And that's due to the smaller number of the National Board Certified Teacher stipends, because the stipends come through us from the state.
Any other board member? Mrs. Reed?
Thank you, Chairman Moon. Thank you for your very concise presentation. And as always, some of us like to get into the details, and I will spare my colleagues most of that tonight, but I just wanted to reiterate a few points that jump out at me. One, of course, is that we do have a little bit of extra money, right, as a result of what you've just described, so $3.5 million, which would lead to a beginning balance next year of $48.5 million, right?
That was actually recognized at the mid-year review. So yes, we've had already recognized some additional funding at mid-year and had already set it aside. So when we built the 2015 advertised budget, it shows a $48.5 million beginning balance.
Okay, so is there any more as a result of third quarter review
during
that
the third quarter, because we have about 1.1 million available, and we are recommending that we spend some of it for the startup costs for the Bailey's Elementary School, and then the remaining 600 to be set aside for major maintenance, because we had cut that during the 2014 approved budget.
Right, thank you. And I know Mr. Plattenberg would agree that we need to start funding our maintenance activities to a greater extent. We just talked about that yesterday in our Infrastructure and Finance Committee meeting. So, so I guess that's really it. There's no other places to look for any spare change under the couch or anything that we could push forward.
Not during this quarterly review.
I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I think particularly board members who've experienced the third quarter review in previous years, the fact that it's that tight, I think, is evidence of the fact that our budgets are getting tighter and tighter, and I think are indicative of what our real needs are. I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to use a staffing reserve for the purposes for which it's intended. I think we probably got it about as tight as we can get it. You'll remember that we did add some additional revenue there for next year, so that we're able to respond to all the needs, because it is a little tight for comfort. But we do need to be able to staff schools and add teachers where they need that support. So I believe we've done in the HR department, along with Susan's department, I think have done a really good job of working with principals and allocating that money where it's needed.
Mrs. McLachlan?
Yeah, I have two questions. First one, since I want to sort of tag on to what Dr. Garza was just talking about with the staffing reserve, The historian in me wants to basically understand what happened so we don't repeat it. And as a board member who has struggled at times when we looked at how to fund some things that we thought were really important, and the hesitancy on this board was, no, we need everything possible to go into the staffing reserve. So while I really appreciate the context you provided about what made this year different, are you able to speak to how it was that we turned in 74 positions the year prior? Did we change our practices in some way? Because this board has spoken to the public and said, we hear you, we understand class sizes are so big, and then we turned around as a system and we didn't use 74 positions last year. So I want to try to understand, again, as a board member, what did we do differently this year that essentially put those positions back into the school? Why weren't they used the year prior?
It's my interpretation or kind of assessment based upon kind of a reflection of a time that I wasn't here, but based upon what I've been able to learn. It's my understanding that we knew we were going to have the challenges for fiscal year 15 in last year, and staff were encouraged to be very, very careful about allocating any money or any additional staffing. You know, we needed to be very, very conservative because we were going to have a terrible budget year moving forward. So I think there wasn't any nefarious, effort for not wanting to support the schools. I think it was just concern about what was ahead. We also right now are working on a regulation so that we can be really transparent about the manner in which we allocate support in the staffing reserve. We actually have a group of principals that are working with us right now to get their feedback on that regulation. So that'll be coming to you soon. So I think we're getting better every year in helping our stakeholders understand what is the thought process for when we allocate additional money to the school. And it's kind of complex. Part of this is the way we allow trading in of positions, and you'll see that reflected in the new regulation we're working on.
I really appreciate your honesty, but I think what I heard actually saddens me, because what I'm hearing is this board, before your arrival, year prior, set a budget that said, we heard from our community that we have class sizes of over 30 kids in our elementary schools, and we need to give relief for those students and those teachers. And what I'm hearing is that prior leadership said, well, we're looking at a really tough budget time, so we're going to really clamp down. So while the board gave direction to the prior administration to say, we're committed to reducing class size in these areas, and it was basically the board's will was ignored. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. We had 74 positions, and the hurdles put in place for teachers to get those positions into their schools, it sounds like it didn't happen. And what I think I heard you say is that now that you came aboard, even though we're facing a worse situation right now this year than we were a year ago, what I think I heard you do is honor the board's determination, which is we put money in a staffing reserve and we want it to go into those classrooms. Use them. Yes, it'd be nice to sock them away for our overall budgetary challenges, but we have a commitment and a responsibility that when we as a board budget money to go into a staffing reserve, it's for that purpose. And to hold it off and squirrel it away is, quite frankly, dishonoring the board's intent. And so while I'm pleased that didn't happen this year, I am saddened that it sounds like that is exactly why we ended up with 74 positions. And I really hope going forward that doesn't ever happen again, because we need to know that the work of the board and the budget we put forward is being honored on behalf of the community. And I think you're trying to honor that, but wow.
I just want to remind the board that last year we actually started with 32 more positions in the staffing reserve. So we had some additional flexibility in returning those positions. So we started with 242 positions in 2013. And then in 2014, because we reduced some of those positions during the budget process, we started with 210. So
thank you, Ms. Quinn. And as the person in HR, I'd like to weigh in on this a little bit. Every year, there are different complexities to staffing schools. You know, the enrollment, the configurations, the grades. You know, one year schools are dead on and other years they are not. And so each year it is a little bit more complex. Certainly thank you for reminding the board of the additional positions that were there last year. Some of the work that we do and have done in terms of the staffing reserve is look at each school individually. And then we see if there are other opportunities, if there are other options. Last year, I can tell you, I know as we looked at each school, as I looked at each school in approving the staffing reserve and the positions to them, we tried to work through what other options. We had a few more options last year. This year, it did not work out as well. I certainly thank the board for keeping the staffing reserve, for putting those positions in, which really do, you know, help us and give us a lot of flexibility as well. But each year is really, really different. And it's hard to compare.
I mean, Dr. Pichardo, I really appreciate, you know, absolutely your commitment, but I think where I'm struggling still is that I hear my colleagues every year talk about that their own districts, and I saw it in mine as well, you know, 30 to 35 kids in an elementary school classroom. That relief didn't come. And so I guess I'm at a loss because somebody was not letting those positions go in and reduce those class. If you talk to parents, the reason why this budget is so important this year is because parents are saying our class sizes remain untenable at the elementary school level. And so I guess I don't want to take up any more time of the board. I would welcome maybe you and I getting a chance to talk it through it a little bit more. But I wanted mostly to just raise this awareness to my colleagues. I hope everybody's listening. If we sit at this table and we talk about that our individual schools need relief, then we need to answer for when we're not using the positions. And thankfully this year it sounds like we did. But the bottom line is we still turned in 74.
Okay, thank you.
My second question that I wanted to just ask is trying to understand, Ms. Schultz raised it, and I guess you're going to come back and explain it or provide an answer to the board. But why is it that we don't know where our vacancies and salary lapses are at third quarter?
Typically, again, I think we kind of went through the process of when we recognize additional funds, and salary lapse tends to fall out at the end of the year. So we are monitoring the accounts, but that's how we end up with those ending balances at the end of the year, because there could be other unforeseen situations that arise. So we want to make sure we're prepared to address that. But we know at third quarter, I think this year, we typically always return any remaining positions in the staffing reserve. We return some savings in utilities, and if there is a specific program that we know we didn't initiate or implement, those funds will be returned as well. So during last year's third quarter, we actually recognized some additional state sales tax revenue because we knew our projections were slightly low compared to what we were experiencing. We also returned some utility funds last year as well because our utility accounts were also trending lower than what we projected. I think with the unknowns this year, with everything regarding weather and the salary accounts, we wanted to ensure that we would have sufficient flexibility within the budget so what we don't spend will actually be recognized at year end as part of that ending balance. That's what makes up the ending balance.
Okay, I guess the procedural question I would have is, since we've talked about the challenge we get, that there's so much scrutiny on how the school system is transparent with its budget and its figures along the way. So I guess my question would be, are you familiar with the county side of things? Are they reporting at third quarter, mid-year, this stuff? So like us, they're
it's very similar.
They're not going to report any of this until the end of the year.
Only for programs they know for sure that are not going to be expending those funds.
And I think that's helpful because we will face that question from the public or the board supervisor saying, well, where's all of this calculations? If we're able to say as a board, well, like the county side, that's something that's not calculated and done until the year end, I think it allows us to sort of provide that explanation so it doesn't look like, well, we do one thing and you do another. No, this is standard. You do it as well, and we'll all find out in the end. And we're not keeping money hidden away.
It's all recognized and identified by line item at the end of the year.
No, I understand that. I just want to make sure if we're doing it at the end of the year and they do it at the end of the year, they can't criticize us for not saying, how come you didn't bring it forward?
Thank you, Mrs. McLean. That was very well understood. And there is no money we are hiding. Thank you, Ms. Quinn. We all know that. Mr. Backup.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Quinn, I wanted to review a little history from, as I recall, my first budget serving on this board in 2012. Half of us had been, were new to elected office that year, and we had all been out campaigning, and we heard about the class sizes. And so when we heard staffing reserve, we grabbed that lever. Hey, I can do something about that. And I think we threw in an extra $1.5 million or something to that effect, right? And then the other piece of history I'd like to confirm is then when we actually went through that fiscal year, we actually didn't come close to actually needing that. And so that caused, as I recall, the proposed budget that we approved then was less than the one in, it was less than the previous year.
The history of the staffing reserve usage, we had significant positions that we returned in 2010. 2011 was a difficult year because we had a lot of reductions. So it also, I think, provided some flexibility to provide additional support to our schools. 2012, I think, was the year we did full-day kindergarten. So we added some additional positions, and we used bulk of the staffing reserve positions then as well. And then last year is when we had the 75 positions that we returned. So now we're back to really using up most of the staffing reserve positions that we've had set aside. So we had positions returned in 2010, and we had positions returned in 2013.
Right, so I always get my years wrong, but the budget we approved in 2012 then was the fiscal 13 budget, is that right?
Yes.
And that's the one where, and
that's
when we had
positions.
a lot of extra positions that we wound up actually not using. Okay.
Okay, any other board member before I do one go back? And I have a Mr. Strauss, and let's try to focus on third quarter budget rather than going back to prior years. If we could do that, Mrs. Strauss.
I just have a quick question, because as we are monitoring year-end and what we are trying to build as a beginning balance, and at mid-year we did add more money to the beginning balance, because this is critical in how short our budget is, so we need to push as much money forward as possible. Could you review for the board again, most beginning balance is the result of usually 2 budget years, and could you help review for people where this beginning balance for FY 2015 is coming from?
If you go to, I believe it is page 4, you're going to see that 2015 beginning balance summary in the agenda item. You're going to have from 2013 year-end set aside was $45 million, which was July of 2013, and then during the mid-year review of 2014, which was December of 2013, we set aside an additional $3.5 million for a total of $48.5 million, which is currently included in our 2015 advertised budget.
So in other words, if we basically spent everything that we had budgeted for, the hole that we are facing now would be even greater as we build into the base. In other words, I mean, that's always the issue. Why don't we spend whatever falls out at the end of the
That's
year?
correct.
That's
but,
right.
You know, sound financial management practices will tell you we shouldn't be spending one-time money on recurring expenses, hence why we are in this structural deficit position. However, because of the challenges we had during the recession, we had to make up for the reduction in our recurring revenues from the state and not keeping up with the expenses. So we went into this pattern of setting aside one-time money to balance the future year budgets.
Right.
But, you know, if we could, you know, within the next 3 to 5 years, we really should not be using one-time money to balance
the budget. Right, thank you.
Another important point, though, that amount is declining.
Yes,
and that's very important to point out that over time, you can follow the trend, our year-end balance is dwindling.
Yes.
And that's creating this significant
Deficit
structural
going
deficit
into.
that we have.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Garja and Ms. Quinn.
Thank you.
So in addition to FY 2014 third quarter budget review as a new business item, we have two more, and they are 6.02. Award a contract for the Eastern Fairfax Elementary School tenant build-out project to the lowest responsible bidder and authorize the division superintendent or the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. 6.03, award contracts for the Flint Hill Elementary School, Cameron Elementary School, and Woodson High School re-roofing project to the lowest responsible bidder and authorize the division superintendent or the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. Next order of business is the superintendent matters. Dr. Garza.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Pleased to announce that Lorton Station Elementary School has been named a National Title I Distinguished School by the Virginia Department of Education. Lorton Station Elementary is one of 59 schools across the country that is being recognized nationally for exceptional student achievement in 2013, having exceeded countless measures as compared to other schools across the country. We're very proud of them. And then also Belvedere Elementary School has also been named a Title I Distinguished School, so we're very proud of them as well. Also want to announce, and we'll have much more information coming out about this, but we do have another snow makeup day scheduled for Monday, April the 7th. It will be a full day for all schools, including all of our elementary schools. So we're trying to recapture as much critical instructional time as we possibly can. So we appreciate our community and our parents working with us on those issues. We've had just a very unique year as it relates to weather, so we appreciate that. Very pleased to announce that over the last several months, the board has approved a contract with an energy company that will help us conserve energy cost. So we're, in the coming weeks and months, we'll be talking more and throughout the public and working throughout the community to talk about our new partnership with Synergistics. They have relationships with over 1,400 school systems across the country and have saved countless millions of dollars for school systems. So at a time when we're so strapped for dollars, we believe it's very, very important for us to look everywhere for savings. And so we're very, very excited about this partnership. It's a proven company, and we'll be working around energy conservation, making sure our systems are running efficiently and effectively. And we anticipate that over the next 5 years, because of that relationship, which, by the way, is just a cost-saving sharing model, so there's no financial risk at all to the school system. So they only get paid if we save money. So we anticipate over the next 5 years conservatively to save well over $23 million, which will help us direct those dollars back to classrooms. So we're very excited and pleased. We believe the community is going to be pleased that we're engaged in that effort as well. And I have to compliment Jeff Plattenberg and his team for their work in working through that company. We're looking forward to telling the community all about it. I think they'll be very excited and pleased. And it'll be a good complement to a lot of the wonderful energy conservation activities that we have going on throughout the division. And then finally, I want to congratulate Harris Lateef from Langley High School. We really look forward to working with you I'm very proud to be part of a school organization where we have student voice at the board table. It's actually very rare. It's not common at all, and I think it's very. We've certainly really enjoyed having Will Ash working with us, and likewise we look forward to working with you. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Garza. Next, we have reports. And let me call on Mrs. Kathy Smith first to report out a Governance Committee work session from February 10th and Infrastructural Financing Committee from February 19th. And then I will ask either Mrs. Strauss or Mrs. Schurz, who are the meeting managers of the work session, for February 10th to report out the work sessions. Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Chairman Moon. I'll be brief. In the governance work session, easy for me to say, we reviewed the technology operational expectations and the measures, and the governance committee might look at a few minor changes there to bring to the board. The infrastructure finance committee had what might be our last meeting. We have a report that we're working on that will hopefully, it's supposed to be finalized by the end of the month, that will come to the Board of Supervisors and to the school board, and we'll be looking for each of those boards to agree to it or not. We'll go over it together, but the goal is to have that done and approved before our March 18 joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors. So as soon as that final version is done, I will work with you to get it to the rest of the school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. And now we'll go back to our February 10th work session. Is Mrs. Schultz or Mrs. Strauss? Mrs. Strauss?
Okay. First, we approved the Technology Operational Expectations Monitoring Report. And then we hit governance. And the anything else to add? Mrs. Schultz.
Strategic planning update.
Yes, the strategic planning update, request for proposal. I'm looking to see. That was it. That was what I thought. Yeah, it was just an update on that as to where we were. There wasn't. Well, there were many other things on the agenda. We didn't manage a whole lot that day.
It was a straightforward work session.
Very straightforward. There, exactly.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Strauss. With that, we can go to board matters. I will start with Mr. Ash. Mr. Storr, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. I just briefly wanted to congratulate the folks at Lorton Station as well for their award, and it was well deserved. It has really been a phenomenal school. It's a school that's currently very overcrowded, and I'm hoping that we can do something to try to address that overcrowding. It's not good for the kids or the community, and part of the challenge there is the challenge that we all, I think, have been discussing about our advanced academic programs. It's a AP center there, which is creating some of the issues in terms of its growth in relation to the school community. But it does need our attention, and it really, frankly, needs it now. I hate to think about another school year with the number of trailers that it has there at this point in time. So, but she's done a phenomenal job, and have a great community, and I'm obviously extremely pleased with the award. So, thank you.
Mr. Backup. Mrs. Reed. Ms. Hines.
Okay, just quickly, since everyone's passing, I won't take up too much time. But this weekend coming up, my predecessor on the board, Stu Gibson, will be participating in Sing Strong, DC, and it's all happening at South Lakes High School in Reston, starting tomorrow and right through Sunday. I'll be going on Saturday afternoon to hear Stu sing and a bunch of our students sing. They're also professional singers. I highly recommend it. If you go to dc.singstrong.org, you can find out more. So looking forward to that.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. I plan to be there on Sunday, not on Saturday. Mrs. Strauss.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Great Falls, Churchill Road, and Chesapeake PTAs for budget discussion meetings. So we've carried on the last week, and tomorrow morning I will be at Forestville Elementary School. I'm trying to get to all of my schools. They've been excellent, excellent discussions. I really appreciate the people who are already sending in letters of support for our funding request for our school. So I do appreciate all the parents who have been participating. The Safe Community Coalition in McLean area sponsored an excellent program for all the students at Longfellow Middle School last week. And it was called Success with Less Stress. They had a guest speaker, Austin Channel, who did a TEDx lecture on creating balance in your school life. In other words, make sure there's room for creativity, and the things that you are passionate about, don't just be grubbing for grades and GPA. He was very interesting. And of course, on the side, he's a theater student, so I was very pleased with that. But it was excellent, and the teacher who was in charge of the Career Center at McLean High School also did a fabulous presentation of 50 colleges who provide very unusual programming, things that I didn't know about. And the bottom line was, middle school students, begin to think about what you are really interested in. There's a school out there that will fit you well. And don't think there's only just 1, 2, or 3 schools that you absolutely must get into, but rather look over the entire horizon and take a look at all these considerations. They also invited the parents to come to the session as well. It was excellent. If anybody wants to see the video that was brought by the McLean Career Center, I would highly, highly recommend it. It was very informative.
Ms. Evans?
Pass.
Mr. Church?
We've got Read Across America coming up, and I think we're all probably scheduled and looking forward to our trips to various schools across the district. I attended a very special pep rally unveiling the Centerville High School Wildcats flag as state champions in the Max Preps Tour with the National Guard. Out of 16,000 teams nationwide, Centerville was ranked number 23. So that was wonderful. Thank you to Coach Haddock and Principal Martin Grimm for including me in that. And tomorrow I'm going to be at Willow Springs PTA. I'm looking forward to that. We had Dr. Garza in the Springfield district on the verge of an ice storm, and she was cool as a cucumber when light bulbs were popping, and it was quite an interesting tour. And thank you to everybody coming out. I know there were people who contacted me who could not make it. I will be attending because it borders the Springfield district, and we have so many students at Lake Braddock. Actually, a majority of them. I will be at the Lake Braddock tour on the 24th with Ms. McLaughlin and Dr. Garza. So I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you.
Mr. McCubbin?
Thank you, Mr. Moon. I enjoyed attending that listening tour stop, as well as the wonderful stop in Lee District, which I think was our best attended so far, and certainly the best discussion I've heard with a supervisor present who got to hear some good feedback. So that was a very good night. Looking forward to the Langley Fashion Show on Saturday night. That's always my wife's favorite event of the year, so we'll be having fun there. And finally, for those of you who are sponsoring Read Across America events, please be sure to email us your pictures of Mr. Moon and Dr. Seuss hats. We like to collect those, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAvey. Mrs. Smith? Mr. Narcofax?
Thank you, and thanks to my colleagues, Mr. McElveen and Mr. Valkoff, for attending the town hall, and thanks to all of you out there who came. We had close to 200 there, I believe. Dr. Garza did a wonderful job talking to them, and I do believe the topics raised were very representative of the community in Lee District, and I was very happy to see so many people out there. Also, I, as always, enjoyed a mid-year graduation to celebrate what we're really all here for, the graduation of our students. And I attended Brian's graduation last night and was happy to be there. Thank you.
Mrs. Stenarkovacs? Mrs. McLaughlin.
I couldn't figure out if he was teasing me and gave me a new nickname, and I was like, Ironically, people do get Tammy and I confused, which I take as a compliment. So a couple of things. First of all, today I had a wonderful meeting with Braddock District PTA presidents. Over 13 schools were represented, and we had over a 2-hour discussion about the pending budget, the challenges we have in front of us, and how to get a really kind of clear message out to our families to educate themselves, be informed, be aware, and to speak to the Board of Supervisors in really a timely manner, because we're looking at March 4th when the Board of Supervisors will vote to decide where they will set the advertised tax rate. And once that vote takes place, there can be no changes to that advertised tax rate. So if we're looking at our budgetary challenges, not just within the school system, but also countywide, the advertised tax rate will lead the discussion, because if there's no options to consider additional revenue coming in, then I'm going to find for myself as a citizen in this county that we have a very limited ability to talk about what it means to be a Fairfax County citizen. And if we are here because we love, value, and enjoy the quality of services beyond just our schools, then we need to communicate that with our Board of Supervisors. And so I was pleased with the discussion we had there. We're looking to have a draft message go back out to my PTA presidents by the weekend time so that they can share early next week with their communities. Just a sort of a one-page fact sheet with those key dates so that people who want to share their voices with the Board of Supervisors prior to March 4th, they will do so. The other thing I wanted to share, as Ms. Schultz noted, is the final stop on Dr. Garza's listenings tour will end in Braddock District, so I'm honored to be the caboose. And I do hope that through the countywide kit message that came out of our school board office today, informing our community that it will be Monday at Lake Braddock at 6:30, that we hope as many residents will come out and share their views and engage in that dialogue, again, 6:30 to 8 o'clock Monday, February 24th. And then on a final note, because it involves 2 schools in my district, Woodson High School, with whom my son is one of the players on that basketball team, is going to meet up with Lake Braddock basketball team tomorrow night for the district men's basketball championship. So it should be an exciting evening for 2 of my high schools in Braddock District, and I'm looking forward to watching that matchup. 2 great teams, and I'm proud of all of those students who have worked so hard this season. And then the other thing I'll just say is that I really hope that all of you who are here tonight, that in tonight's discussion, we've, especially with our young men who are here with the Boy Scouts, that we've inspired you to understand that when you're passionate about your community, whether it's about schools or anything else, getting involved is the best way that you can help make a difference. And so your being here tonight, we appreciate, and I hope you'll continue to take your commitment to your community and carry forward and do good work.
So, Mrs. McLaughlin, what time is the game between those 2 schools?
7:30 tomorrow night at Lake Braddock Gym.
Okay, 7:30. I will see whether I can fit that into my schedule, because I'm planning on to be at Robinson to watch state wrestling matches, tomorrow and Saturday. All right, with that, let me read this. The board will now make a motion to go into a closed meeting to discuss and consider the employment and performance of a specific public officer pursuant to Virginia Code, Section 2.2-3711A1. Is there a motion? Moved by Mrs. Schultz and seconded by Mrs. Smith. All those in favor, raise your hand. The vote is unanimous. The board is in closed meeting.